Hey guys, welcome. This is Ned with another wonderfully fantastic video for you today. This is another episode of Play Like the Pros, and this particular video is going to be between Bonjour 4 and Skrilla, number 33 versus the number 8. 81. I can read numbers. I am intelligent. So anyways, as you can see here at the very top, that's the deck that we're going to be looking at. And Skrilla is the deck that we will be monitoring and copying today. Again, the requirements for the Play Like the Pros is something that essentially it's all lower level cards for the most part. There won't be any super high level cards. Now, I do know that the Elixir Pump is a higher level card, but as well as Poison. But nonetheless, when I was scrolling through, it was one of the best examples of what I was looking for. So let's go ahead and watch Skrilla as he attempts to battle his way to victory. And it'll be a whole lot of fun, hopefully. So Skrilla here is going to be at the top, as you can see. And one thing that I noticed happens very, very often with the people at higher levels who have freeze is at least a difference between higher levels with freeze and lower levels with freeze. Those at the higher levels will use freeze in a defensive manner, while those at the lower levels will use freeze primarily in a defensive manner. And I think that's something that's pretty interesting to note. He kind of gives up that tower a little bit. You know, I think he focuses more on trying to get rid of that P.E.K.K.A. than anything else. So he sacrifices quite a bit of health on that tower on the right. And you know, with his defense, it's actually rather poor. I don't know. You know, hindsight's always 20/20. I think I would have played that just a little bit differently from the beginning. But, you know, I mean, that is what it is. He does an excellent push here, getting that Hog Rider to the tower. And as you can see, he also places a second Elixir Pump out, which is something that I always really like to try and do. And with that push, he gets both towers to around half. Both of them are about half now. Places that baby dragon and is able to take out that P.E.K.K.A. with a minimal amount of trouble. And he goes kind of on the counterattack. Does a really good job, and he does use that freeze in a defensive manner just to ensure that he gets the tower, and he immediately continues on to the other side. But he uses this deck in a pretty good offensive-defensive manner. He uses the Barbarians to kind of buffer his Hog Rider, which I think is pretty cool. Something, you know, that was relatively new to me. And he's able to get both towers. And this is the first time we actually see that Princess. And as always, I've said this many times, that Princess is I don't really like that Princess just because its health is so low that it appears as though it's super easy to counter her. And to me, cards that are really easy to counter are not good cards to use, because you don't want your cards that can be countered in multiple ways, because then you're not really doing yourself any favors, because you're just kind of setting them up for an easy defense. Now granted, if you're using it in a defensive manner, then that's a different story, but that's not the case here. So anyways, again, he uses that freeze in a defensive manner, and he's able to emerge victorious. I tried this deck, and in the last episode I did of Play Like a Pro, I actually had a very hard time utilizing the deck that I was trying to show. And it was, you know, like I said, it's just really hard for me. This time, I actually feel like I had a significant amount of success. I think that, so what I like to do, and this is kind of a side note that really has nothing to do with Play Like a Pro, but what I like to do is I'll have multiple decks, and I will use them all. I'll just kind of cycle through them. So if I lose with one, then that is what it is, but I will go to the next deck, because sometimes a specific deck will seem a little stale to me, And sometimes if I use a separate deck, it just kind of freshens up the deck a little bit, you know what I mean? And that really seems to help me if I get in a funk. But anyways, so I think I'm going to include this deck quite possibly in my normal routine. So I played it quite a bit. I played about 10 matches with it and ended up, a little bit over even. But again, I was learning to use it, with every deck there's always a different set of parameters on when a card is good, what kind of combos are good defensively, what kind of combos are good offensively. And I think that that's the biggest thing that I really had to learn. But anyway, so let's go ahead and look and see what it was I did. And we will kind of compare and take notes. Well, not really compare, but more just kind of take notes. And hopefully the things will be good on what it was I did, and you guys can learn something from it. And maybe you can implement maybe some techniques and things like that. But anyways, we'll watch this first one. Now, one thing I will say about this deck is I had a lot of... I know the ones you're watching right now are going to be both 1-0s, but I had quite a few, 2-1 scores, either both wins and losses. And I think a lot of them were victories that I should have won, but I just didn't play it 100% correctly. One of the hardest things for me is making that first play. Normally what I like to do is I'll usually use Spear Goblins on my deck, and the Spear Goblins will be kind of my first thing, because a Spear Goblin, it's pretty innocuous and people don't do much to defend against it, but it's very, very easy to get 200 to 300 damage down on a turret for just that 2 mana, or 2 elixir. But this time I've kind of stuck using the Baby Dragon first. It's pretty tanky, has pretty good splash damage, and I really do like it. And it seems to be a pretty good, immediate card to use if you are trying to play kind of passively. So I've got that one tower down to about half health, and he's got about, half health on that second tower. So at this point now, I know that he's got the Inferno Tower, and I really just kind of want to play more defensive right now, so I kind of start getting that elixir going. Whenever you have an elixir pump and you don't use it, you're really wasting it, because unless your opponent has something like a rocket or something along those lines, there's really no reason not to use it on cooldown. So again, I defend, and that's kind of just what I'm doing right now, is just defending. He's got an elixir advantage, unfortunately, but on the bright side, one thing I did get him to do was place that Inferno Tower off on the side. Whenever you see that, that's always kind of open game to attack the other side. I like to kind of attack both towers. I don't really like whittling down at just one. Now, if I'm obviously outclassed, then of course I will whittle down at just one. But it's not necessarily something I like to do. And again, you'll see me using that freeze defensively, and I get a really good push going down on that left side. And then I'm able to also freeze that Inferno Tower, and then continue on that, really good push on that left side. And so now, I think that the nice thing on this is the fact that I have both towers down pretty low. Obviously, the tower on the left is lower, but the fact that both towers are low is always something that you like to see, because let's say he does take that one on the left after I take, his left tower, which obviously he can't. Now, it's a lot easier for you to win in overtime than it is for him, because you only have to get half as much health down as he does. So that was the first one. And we'll watch the second one. Got to make sure I'm using the right one here. And here's the second one. We'll watch this one. And you can see that both of these are against people with slightly higher trophies than me. Granted, I did lose a few trophies in trying to do this, but not much. Maybe 50 trophies. Whereas last time I lost quite a few trophies. And I'm still in the process of climbing back up to where I was. And again, we have another stupid Inferno Tower. I absolutely abhor the Inferno Tower. But that's okay. I'm able to make some pretty short work of it. But my offensive does pretty much absolutely nothing. and he ends up with this elixir advantage. And again, I use that freeze in a defensive manner, and kind of freeze him in his tracks, and he's able to get a little bit of damage down, but that's okay. It wasn't a whole lot, and we are able to sort of equal out the elixir advantage that he had, which I like. Evening things out of that nature is always wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And not only does he have that Inferno Tower, but he has the cannon. I hate people who use so many defensive structures. Very effective, I know, but I still don't like it because it annoys me when I'm fighting against them. And I don't like to be annoyed. I like to be happy. But anyways, I get my elixir pump down because, you know, it's always good to have it down. If you're in the higher levels where you see a lot of elixir pumps, I highly recommend having something like a rocket or a lightning spell or a poison. Anything that can reduce the damage or the life span of that item. Especially since there's a nerf coming up in about 3 days, that's going to reduce the hit points of it, which is going to be fantastic. You know, I love the elixir pump. It's a great card, but, you know, it is used constantly by people who have it, and I think that it is rather overpowered. But anyways, we'll continue on with the match. Right now, I'm just being defensive. Again, I know that he's got a good bit of elixir, so I'm just trying to defend, see what he does. So I kind of start a push on the far side, and then defend on the left side. And whenever you kind of defend like this, it gives you an opportunity to push. Luckily, I'm able to get that Hog Rider to the tower, and he's too late on getting that cannon down, which is wonderful. And then there's more defending against that Hog Rider, which, whatever, that's fine. And at this point, I'm actually behind, but that's okay. I don't mind being behind too much. Luckily, I'm able to get the Inferno Tower down without too much trouble. Use that poison for just a little bit of damage. And unfortunately, I was too late with that freeze, but it does help with my Musketeer. And that Musketeer is able to take that tower in overtime, and everything is just dandy. But anyways, and actually, when I took that tower, I thought the game was over. That's why it's important to pay attention all the way to the end. Kind of like when you're, you know, playing baseball or whatever, and the coach says, "Hey, watch the ball." You know, you really got to watch that ball, because otherwise it might be wind up hitting you in the face, and you wind up with a black eye. And one thing you don't want to do is be like, "Oh, hey, look, I'm winning." No, I'm not, because I wasn't paying attention. That's kind of what happened here to me. But, you know, it is what it is. I ended up with a win, so that made me happy. So anyways, that's this deck. Let me show it to you real quick. It's this right here. I enjoyed it. It was quite effective for me. Elixir cost was a little bit high. Nothing too low that it can be used quickly for defense. So again, you have to be relying on that defensive play where you defend and then counter push. When I remembered to do that, I was quite successful with this deck. When I was not so good. The Hog Rider can kind of go in with on the side, you know, behind the troops that you used for defense. And that's what I did. But anyways, let me know what you think about this video. Like it, comment it, share it, enjoy it. But anyways, let me know what you think, like I already said, and we'll see you guys next time. Have a great day.